Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy Presents our MLB DFS pitcher picks for Monday, April 10th, 2017. I'm your host, Nick Valinchak, better known as Nick from CWE on all of your favorite daily fantasy sites. And let's talk some pitchers. This is actually basically the first time since opening day that we've had a small slate. We actually have two small slates. And I will tell you, I'm not paying any attention to the early slate. I only want to play slates where we can have big prize pools. So we will be focusing exclusively on the slate starting at 7 p.m. And I'm going to give you my top 3 tournament pitchers today. And then later on, I will drop my top 3 tournament hitters as well. Let's start things off today with Jon Lester. And Lester is going to be an interesting guy. He's sitting at 10-1 on FanDuel. And I know that he's sitting at like either 11-3 on DraftKings. And I'm saying this is a specific reason. Let me go through his matchup first. He actually has the best matchup on the board in terms of how hitters hit lefties from the Dodgers. They are the lowest last year with a 275 WOBA of the teams on this slate. They struck out the third most in terms of teams on the slate today against left-handed pitching. They had some hard hit, but again, it was just average, and they had the lowest ISO against left-handed pitching. And Lester, for his part, has pretty much pitched this team very well. When you're talking about your right-handed bats being Justin Turner, and then a little bit down the list being Logan Forsythe, and then dropping way down the list and hitting guys like Franklin Gutierrez, Kiki Hernandez, Scott Van Slyke, that's not really an intimidating battery to put out there against a skilled pitcher like Lester. He's a guy I think you can feel comfortable rostering in both your cash games and your tournaments. And as far as I'm concerned, like, there's really no point in looking anywhere else. This is one of those slates where, like, okay, so game theory says if you think everybody's going to be on Lester, find someone else. Well, I hate to break it to you. First of all, one of the 5 games is at Coors, and all of those guys have jacked up pricing. And second of all, that means one of game, 2 pitchers out of 8 pitchers are in Coors, and if we think Coors is an atmosphere we want to attack, that eliminates 20% of the pitchers already. Anyway, there was probably only 4 pitchers that I was really looking at on this slate to begin with. So I just think this is one of those things where, fine, you say game theory, I say I'm going to put Lester in my lineups and I'll figure out a differentiation in my bats. That's how it's going to be. Now, why does Lester make this list? Lester makes this list, even though we try to stick to FanDuel, it's a lot because of DraftKings. DraftKings has priced DeGrom like $2K under Lester tonight. And with this being a tournament type atmosphere that we're trying to set up here, my mentality early on is that, okay, people are going to gravitate to DeGrom because he's got similar upside. The Phillies were not a team that was really that good. You know, they had a WOBA under 300 against righties last year. They struck out the second most against righties out of teams on the slate today. Their ISO was about league average, and they had really low hard hit. So, I mean, all signs pointing towards if you're not going to go Lester, DeGrom's a guy, and it makes the decision easier on you on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they're priced literally $100 different. On DraftKings, we've got an immense price difference. So, on that site, I think that most people are going to gravitate to either playing Lester and DeGrom or playing DeGrom and Tanner Roark, Jerad Eickhoff, or Tyler Glasnow, for example. So I think that Lester almost could become a tournament game theory play in the fact that people might not be on him as much since you have a guy with the relative same upside in Jacob DeGrom. So just putting that out there. Let's move on. Jerad Eickhoff is another guy I will take a look at today. Nothing really lines up as well. I mean, the Mets, all of their everything comes from the left-handed side of the plate. So if you're looking at like WOBA, again, just above league average. last year. Their strikeout percentage, again, right about league average. Their ISO was pretty high, 0.17, and they mashed right-handed pitching to the tune of 33.7. Not the highest on the day, but still pretty well up there. So why does a guy like Jerad Eickhoff make our list today? Well, for the most part, the Mets have been stumbling out of the gate. And I do think that this Philly team is a little bit underrated. I mean, they're going along the Padres with me. The Padres pitching is what keeps this team in the bad category. Their offense is not as bad as it used to be, and neither is the Phillies. You know, you've traded up by getting rid of Ryan Howard out of the lineup. I'm not sure I'm saying Tommy Joseph is the trade up. I'm just saying, in general, the lineup construction ends up being a little bit tighter. I would take Michael Saunders any day over Ryan Howard at this point in both of their careers in that lineup. So it's a bit of a stronger lineup. The Mets, you know, the situation here, I just don't know what they're going to be able to do in terms of getting started. They just seem to be stumbling around. We've seen them in pretty strong matchups before just completely crap the bed. And we're talking tournaments here, and, you know, this is a decent way at least to try to differentiate yourself, because I think that there's a couple of guys in better situations that might get looked at. You're going to have to take some uncomfortable risks today because, like I said, 80% of the pitchers are in play. I'm not looking at Cosart. I'm not looking at Chatwood. So it really limits what we're able to do. And quite frankly, I'm not looking at Wood or Wainwright either. So we're talking about, you know, or Finnegan. So we're talking about half the pitchers being playable. I think of those half of the pitchers, Eickhoff is likely to be the lowest owned. And if he's able to keep the Mets stumbling out of the gate, he does have a decent strikeout potential. And, yeah, I mean, he could end up being a guy. No one wants to roster some of these guys sometimes. No one wants to play Irvin Santana. Spun another gem for him at his price range yesterday against the White Sox. I mean, it's all about trying to think where your opponents are going to go, especially on a short slate, and figuring out how to beat them. Like, okay, you don't want to give up Lester or DeGrom, or if you're playing one of the two, and you still want to go Coors and everyone else is going to go to Glasnow, go to Eickhoff. Could be a 20-point difference. You never know. Glasnow could be torn apart by the Reds. Speaking of Glasnow, he's our next play at the pitcher position at 7,500. I'm sorry, 4,400. I think he's 7,500 on DraftKings. But, yeah, 4,400 on FanDuel. This is honestly, I mean, like, I don't want to insult people who play FanDuel because I play on FanDuel too. I was very successful in golf this weekend, which is probably just about the only thing I'm going to play on FanDuel going forward. But, I mean, this kind of pricing is just insane. Like, you're going to put a starting pitcher that's not a negative quality starting pitcher at 4,400. Like, this wasn't his first game. He's priced below both guys at Coors. DraftKings has him priced right in the middle, probably right where he should be. I mean, come on, FanDuel. Like, this is like the minor leagues. FanDuel has become the minor leagues to DraftKings because they just let you do whatever you want, and it takes a lot of the skill out of being able to build lineups when I could plug in anybody I want. At that point, I'm just playing my favorite players of the day or all the guys in the best matchups, and I can move on. At least you have to use your brain on DraftKings. But Glasnow, 4,400. I mean, you plug him in, you've got on FanDuel over $3,800 to spend. There's no catcher that's priced above 3,100. Even if you put the highest catcher in, you're pretty much at a position, yeah, second base, 3,600. There's no way that you're going to be able to spend all your money, basically. It's good. You will, but I mean, you're going to have to sacrifice like one position. But anyway, I digress. This video's gone on longer than it needed to. Top 3 tournament pitchers of the day: Jon Lester, Jerad Eickhoff, Tyler Glasnow. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com. Sign up for our MLB mailing list. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win. And join us again tomorrow.